Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, and the dramatization of Paul Murdaugh, Alex Murdaugh's second son, whom he murdered along with Paul's mother, going full Timmy, is not only strange but true.
We're in a boat crash on Arthur Street.
Whereabouts on Arthur Street?
In Arthur Street, the only bridge on Arthur Street.
Arthur Street?
Arthur's Creek.
Arthur's Creek. Arthur's Creek. Is it? Okay. What's going on?
It's by Paris Island.
Right. What's going on?
We're in a boat crash.
You know what kind of a?
A boat crash.
A boat? Did you say a boat crash?
A boat crash.
Okay, so you're at the dock? Hello, are you at the dock?
No, we just crashed in a boat.
Okay, are you in the water or are you?
We're in the boat.
Okay.
We have someone missing.
And that must be one of the most annoying 911 operators I think I have ever heard.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. 4 years ago in 2021, the New York Post was reporting on this. The murdered son of a prominent South Carolina lawyer acted so strangely when he was drunk that his friends allegedly gave his boozed-up alter ego another name. Paul Murdaugh, who was facing trial in the alleged boozy death of 19-year-old Mallory Beach when he and his mother were shot to death on the family's property last week, was reportedly called Timmy when he drank. It's a different name because he turns into a totally different person, said Anthony Cook. And that was his voice you heard in the 911 call. Anthony was Beach's boyfriend and also Paul Murdaugh's cousin. And he said this about Paul turning into Timmy under oath in a deposition.
I finally got to the point I grabbed my girlfriend and put her in my lap in the bottom of the boat and was holding on with my eyes closed. The next thing I know, I'm in water.
So somebody will say, all right, here comes Timmy, we gotta go, Cook said. I've always found Paul's demeanor after the boat crash and Anthony's to be totally different, even contradictory, and you see that demeanor dramatized very effectively by the very talented actor playing Paul Murdaugh in this series on Hulu. Anthony is grief-stricken, emotionally overwrought, obviously crying and traumatized. Meanwhile, Paul, who was driving the boat, is quiet and guarded and sort of deadpan. He's unemotional when he should be the most emotional of all. He should be feeling a lot of contrition given what he's done. And remember how Alex Murdaugh came across at his crime scene, totally overwrought. Well, that's not what we see here. In this analysis, we're going to examine Anthony Cook, Mallory's boyfriend's deposition, and what that reveals about Paul Murdaugh, as well as deal with some amazing new insights, not only in terms of Paul's psychology, but how the Timmy alter ego tells us something about his father, tells us something about Alex Murdaugh as well. But before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I will obviously be continuing this analysis of the Hulu series, so if you're interested in that, please do subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell. By the way, a big thank you to TYPK1SB. Thank you very much for that. By the way, I actually saw on another channel that you can give super thanks up to $399. Wow. I think the most I've ever gotten is $49. But anyway, here's a challenge to you. It's a challenge coming from my Timmy. Timmy is appealing to you guys. Let's see what you guys can do. Let's see what your alter egos can do in terms of those contributions. Anyway, if you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please do hit the thanks button and let's get started.
There's 6 of us and 1 is missing. What, Molly? She's in the water.
Can you see her?
Carnage and chaos.
Now, before we deal with Anthony's deposition, I want to be clear that there are 4 different drunk types. This is scientific, based on how different personalities handle liquor in social settings. See if you can recognize yourself in one of them. They are the Hemingway. A Hemingway is someone who can drink huge amounts of alcohol and just like not seem to change whatsoever. Like alcohol just doesn't affect them. Then there's Mary Poppins, Mr. Hyde, and the Nutty Professor. Paul Murdaugh was the Mr. Hyde type. According to a study published in the journal Addiction Research and Theory, the Mr. Hydes take after the evil alter ego of Dr. Jekyll experienced the most negative drunk transformation, right? And that's what we're dealing with Paul. He shows the most negative transformation when he's drunk. These types of drunks reported decreases in conscientiousness and intellect, so they act stupid as well, and then as well that they're particularly less responsible, less intellectual, and more hostile when under the influence of alcohol. Not to mention, this is the only group statistically more likely to experience harmful consequences from their drinking, like blacking out or being arrested because of drunken behavior. When you watch the Hulu series, you get a sense of what's winding Paul up, like what is eating at him. For starters, his father is obviously favoring his older brother, and this psychological wounding is something he tries to soothe over by drinking, which only makes him fall out of favor even more with his parents and brother. There's a scene in episode 3 where the family go away on a trip, basically to recover from the scandal and the stress of the boat accident, and the 3 men decide to go fishing together. That's Paul and his brother Buster and their father. And then at the last second, Paul pulls out. He feels he's sort of starting to have flashbacks of being on a boat again. And Buster, in a way, conscientiously decides to support his brother. He decides to babysit him. And so guess what? They go from there to the nearest bar, and guess what they do? Well, they get drunk. Well, he gets drunk. Paul gets drunk. Not surprisingly, Buster is annoyed that his brother is always ruining their lives. Sometime later, when Paul is significantly more drunk, he purposefully taunts his new barfly buddies into beating him up. Why? Because he feels guilty and thinks he deserves it. This is another version of the Timmy aspect coming out, but it's this dark person who actually feels haunted by kind of his life. And this is yet another sign of Paul trying to make sense of his twisted life. And what was very twisted here was that his father, in an effort to stave off a ruinous lawsuit, was actually trying to get one of Paul's friends who was on the boat to take the rap for driving the boat. Paul's job, he's told, is to not to look for Mallory, not to say anything, just stay quiet while his father tries to clean up the mess, legally speaking. As we know in hindsight, Mallory's death was just too messy to clean up.
19-year-old Mallory Beach missing after a night on the boat with friends. The recent high school graduate jettisoned from her boyfriend's arms when a 17-foot center console plowed into a piling in Beaufort County, South Carolina.
Now, I've actually driven over that bridge. I've walked over the bridge. I've stood on the bridge looking down, and I've actually walked sort of under the bridge right to the water's edge, and it's kind of a lattice work of pilings. You can imagine at night it's got to be quite difficult to navigate your way through that sort of lattice work of pilings. And if you're drunk and traveling at speed, well, then it's going to be really tricky. I've actually also walked along the pier from where they were drinking to where they walked to where the boat was actually docked. I've also walked that little stretch. And the Mallory Beach incident is really what propelled a lot of the events that followed. I think it basically led to Alex murdering his son and wife as a way to cover his tracks when the walls were really moving in. So at first, Alex tried to clean up the mess, and when that failed, well, then the next level in that whole process was murdering his son and wife. In the Hulu series, we can clearly see there's no love lost between the father and the youngest son. But what is also interesting is Alex Murdaugh's not that great relationship with his own father, Randolph.
Tides are coming and going, close to the ocean. You think they can still find her? Alive? With all? A criminal case would be a lot harder to make if they don't.
We also see Randolph in the dramatization. Apparently, he seems to be making suggestions. For example, when Mallory disappears, he tells Alex that if Mallory isn't found, it could benefit them. Legally, of course. No body, no crime. But of course, she would eventually be found and the crime stuck. Now let's deal with that deposition. It's the deposition of Anthony Cook. Now that I got that clear, you get on the boat and who is driving from downtown and you're supposed to be heading back to Murdaugh Island? Paul. Paul's driving? Yes. Tell me what went on to the best you can remember until the time of the accident. Now, if I can remember, this is me speaking now, if I can remember correctly, not everyone would sign off on the fact that someone else was driving the boat except Paul. So I think the idea was to get all of the kids to agree that it wasn't Paul driving, but somebody else, but they weren't able to achieve that consensus. Anyway, Anthony goes on to say that we argued the whole way. Everybody was fighting and arguing. We drifted around in circles numerous times. This is in the boat. We idled long. I mean, Miley was steady hollering that she had to work the next morning. She was ready to go, that she was wanting to hurry up and getting home, and all Paul was doing was making a fool of himself. I mean, all there was to it really. The arguing the whole time, and then Paul for some reason acted like he was on drugs or something. He started taking his clothes off during one of the arguments, and it is 40 degrees outside, and however long it took us to get to the dock, to where the boat took us off from, what I saw on the GPS wasn't but a few minutes before we hit the bridge. From downtown Beaufort to there, we didn't do nothing but argue the whole time. And that's when the fight about what happened, or the argument, whatever you want to call it, where the boat took off. And you can actually see them when they walk along in the CCTV. When they walk to the boat, you can actually see that they're arguing on camera. And then he's asked, help me out, how long was it from the time you left the dock and downtown Beaufort? And he said, it felt like 10 hours to me. Okay, but I don't know, I have no idea, but it felt like forever. And you looked at the GPS, do you know how long it actually was? After I saw it, but I don't remember now, but I think it was over an hour. Okay, and is that to the best of your knowledge? Was that the correct time? I think it was over an hour. Then he's asked, I think in terms of taking his clothes off, does he ever go below his boxers? No, sir. That night, I've seen pictures of him in the hospital in his boxers, but that was the way he was dressed when the accident took place. I believe so, but I'm not positive. So literally when this accident took place, Paul's basically standing in his underwear. Okay, so we know he took his clothes off. Did he do anything else to give you an indication that he was drunk or intoxicated? To me, it sounds like he might be intoxicated. Do you know him to take his clothes off? Anything else he did to indicate that he was drunk or intoxicated? His hands, his eyes and his hands. Tell me about his hands. His hands do this, and then he gestures when he gets drunk. I don't know. All right. When he goes to point, he can't point with one finger. His hands are doing this the whole time. They are stuck wide open, and his eyes big and round as $half, and he doesn't blink. It's crazy. All right, you have a nickname for him when he does this? We do. What is it? Give me a second. I'll remember. Is it Timmy? Timmy, yes, sir. That nickname came out about 3 or 4 years ago. Where did it come from? It started one night at Moselle, Mr. Alex's house in Moselle. It's a different name because he turns into a totally different person. So somebody will say, when they can tell he's drunk, somebody will say, all right, here comes Timmy, we got to go. So he was known to these, I don't want to call them habits, but this motion with his eyes and his hands. And then he also says he loved to tear stuff up. And I think this sort of wide motion with his hands is depicted in the Hulu series as well. Now remember, Oscar Pistorius, before he murdered his girlfriend, he was also in a boating accident, and in the same context, alcohol. But the interesting insight here is that Paul had a very clear alter ego that was reckless, ruthless, and hostile. I think the reason it was there was because of how he was pushed down and passed over in the family dynamic. I think he felt kind of suppressed and inhibited just in his daily life at home. But the irony is, I think Alex Murdaugh was experiencing something similar from his own father, who is portrayed as quite a severe figure in the series. And so when Paul got drunk and his inhibitions melted away, these suppressed feelings of anger and aggression came to the fore. And I think what that is showing is just how deep these feelings are seated. And when the alcohol is part of the whole process, it's revealing just how much stress, in a way, is affecting Paul's psychology. And don't forget, in the same way that Paul was drinking excessively, his father was addicted to pills as well. And this, I think, unleashed Alex's own version of Timmy. I think if Paul had a Timmy, his father had one as well. There are hints of this alter ego, such as when Murdaugh's jellyfish factory gets shut down, and in some of his interactions with Maggie. But of course, the surest manifestation of this other, much darker side is obviously when Alex murders his son and wife, and then he effortlessly slides into the role of the blubbering emotional victim, which is sort of what he is, or what he imagines he is in the situation he's in. Ironically, when Barry Morphy arrived at the scene following Suzanne's disappearance, he had a similar over-the-top voice-breaking reaction to Alex Murdaugh.
I'm here with my daughter. She's at Harry's house.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, you can go down there.
Is it a crash?
I mean, the bike looked, the way it was laid, it kind of looked like it, but there's not really that much damage to the bike. That's the thing.
Lion?
Yeah, it was just like
Was
lying.
there no lion? Mountain lion?
I didn't see anything that would.
I didn't see anything, and they're not letting us go over the sites
because they're getting attracted.
They're bringing dogs.
Just right down in here.
And Barry Morphew is currently awaiting trial for his wife's murder. In the next analysis, I want to look at the dynamic between Maggie and Alex, and to some extent Maggie and her sons. Because if Paul felt conflicted in terms of the situation he was in, I think Maggie Murdaugh felt even more conflicted. Do you guys agree with that? And we see some of this when she demands Paul get out of his room and look for the girl he killed, despite strict orders from Alex and I guess Randolph perhaps as well, that they lay low and say and do nothing.
We are going looking for her like we should have been this whole time.
It's too late. Probably swept out to the ocean by now.
Well, it might be, but we are going.
Daddy said to stay away. What?
Your daddy isn't always right.
Well said, Maggie. Well, I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you very much for listening, and look out for the next review and analysis of the next episode in this series.